Closer to home, people gathered at the South Congregational Church in Springfield tonight for a vigil in solidarity with those impacted by the federal action in the Midwest and here in the Bay State. Organizers with the Pioneer Valley Project tell us the church was full with the sound of prayers to honor immigrant communities and those who have suffered because of ICE. They shared their goal for tonight's event to bring the community together in grief, prayer, and action, and renewing commitment to care for and protect one another peacefully. They left a message for those who couldn't attend.
It's the power of the community to come together because our neighbors are being hurt. Injustice can't live in this country, and that as people get together in meetings like this, in prayer vigils like this, it's a reminder that people have power to change.
And want to see more from the vigil? The entire event was recorded for the Pioneer Valley's Facebook page.